any dialogue. Let me turn this around the opposite direction. Okay, so my first question would be, what do people think about the documentary?
It's great. Great. Very.
Did people, because I know when we said we would do it and we sat down, even though some of the stories were the reason that we did it, as we were talking, I was hearing stuff. I know it's true because now I'm hearing more stuff, but it sounded unbelievable. Did anybody in here hear things that were just absolutely appalling and hard even for you to believe that's happening in the schools?
Yes.
Great. Can I see hands just to get an idea if people say, I didn't know this was going on?
Oh, I'm still gonna raise my hand.
Yeah. Yes.
The lunch, you can't bring your own lunch to school.
Yeah, when my brother said children can't bring their own lunch to school, I was like, you want to stand up, brother? Yeah, we right there.
Stand off the mic.
Yeah, I wanted to address that one, but since he brought that up, a part of that is kind of on us for real, because what happens is a lot of kids will order food from the carry out. Then when the carry out man show up, they ain't nowhere to be found.
Okay.
So the schools cut it out. And then kids will also leave school to try to go to whatever carry out or whatever that's around. You can't leave campus.
What about bringing it from home?
Now you can bring food from home. That's a lunch. Let's use logic with some of this stuff.
Well, he said the way
no outside food. That's the key word. He said outside food, not food from home.
Oh, see, I didn't understand.
You see what I'm saying? Now he might maybe he thought it's lunch, but you gotta think about that. I make my kid lunch, and you telling me that my kid can't bring lunch to school.
They got food allergies and everything.
This is what I assume.
Well, I'm saying, but being in the school system, working in the school system, I saw one of the reasons.
Okay.
One of the reasons it could. So I would have to talk to him to really get where he's coming from. But I said
you can't leave the school and go get food.
Kids do that.
Okay.
Kids have cars and they'll leave. You can't do that.
Okay.
Kids.
We used to do that at Delmar. We used to go to
right. Kids would like I said, order food and they abuse it. You understand what I'm saying? So in our schools, they put as many restrictions on it, because let's keep it real, we go too far sometimes with the food situation. We're doing little stuff like that.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I got you.
So that's I want people to, and that's why I say that's on us, because we gotta check that. Because if we're like, okay, we want our kids to be able to order food outside, maybe they can do it on Fridays or however we want to do it. As parents, we gotta say.
Well, see, because y'all, we're talking two different things. And since we don't have them here, we can't really do it, because the context of what he was saying.
He's talking about nutrition.
Yeah, the context of what he was saying was not that you can't leave the school to go get something. He was saying that they can't bring it to school.
Food, right.
Well, since we now know that there's a conflict, we're not sure about that. We can leave that off, because he was talking about something different than what you're talking about. So,
but I was saying that's a part that's a part of it. You can't tell people that they can't bring. Like if I make a lunch for my child, that they can't bring it to school.
Well, all I'm saying is he said that, and I don't know since he's not here. Let's leave that off and say we have to, because you in the school system, so you know better than me. That's why I'm not going to dispute that. The reason I say that is because it's a lot of stuff that you would say you can't say this. That, like for instance, you would think you can't tell me that I can't tell my son that he's not a girl. But they're legislating as we're speaking in the school systems. You would think that you would say, you can't tell me that if a boy is in the girl's bathroom, that I can't go and tell him to go out and go to the boy's bathroom. But as we're speaking now, it depends on where you are or what they're doing. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So it's like it's not logical anymore.
What they also doing with that, they just taking off. In schools, what they're doing, they're taking off the male and female signs.
And just putting people.
Nah, they just not happening. Now, one school I worked in, it was a smaller school, it wasn't a public school, it was on the private side. What they started to do is just take off the signs.
You know what background wrong is? What's at the urinal?
So that's kind of
Right, but understand what I'm saying. Because I want you to understand the context of what we're saying. I want everybody to get the insanity of what the brother's saying. What that's saying is that if I let my daughter go to that school, invariably she's going to be in the bathroom with a little boy.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a matter of time.
So that in and of itself is absolute insanity. And it has been now, sanity and morality has been legislated as it's essentially illegal or outlawed. Because the logical, correct me when I get wrong on this, the logical, responsible parent says there should be no boys in the girls' bathroom, there should be no girls in the boys' bathroom, and with all the sexuality that these children have been exposed to, somebody need to be in there making sure they go in the bathroom and come out and leave, either the boys and the girls. But the very opposite is happening with society. Now they're saying, if you try to say that a boy should be in a boy's bathroom, you're bordering on pushing towards criminal behavior.
That's right.
And if you're saying that the girl should only be in the girl's bathroom, essentially you're a racist. Even though gay is not a race, but they're trying to make it a race. So,
You have violated the law.
they're creating insanity. Like, there's no way out of this. This is because, again, they ain't even coming after us.
Right.
This is not something that they're doing. I mean, they are doing it, but they're going past us.
That's right.
They've essentially said that parents no longer, particularly black people, because the brother said to me something in the back that was, and they do it in the white communities too. But what the brother said is that he's out in the Virginia school system and he hadn't seen it like that. But the crazy thing, all of the black, it's not like one or two people I talk to. Everybody in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, DMV area, between D.C. and Maryland, all of them are telling me, okay, I have a brother who had to go, it's mandated, if you don't go, you get fired, to a transgender training course for elementary students and junior high students. So in other words, you have to go and learn how to accept a little boy to being a girl. And if you don't take the course, you get fired. So in other words, it's not like you can say as a teacher, your morality cannot play into part.
We had to do that work.
Say it again?
We had to do that work.
Okay, so now he's right. So literally, basic sanity is being outlawed. You cannot be a sane. Forget about African and black with our culture. I'm gonna come out. Come on up. Come on, get on the mic right here. But forget about being African, centered, and cultural. I'm not saying forget about it for real, but I'm saying we ain't going that far. You can't even be sane today, based on the law and the regulations in the school.
It's just basically this legislation, and we have to start understanding the legislation. If you don't understand the legislation of the society in which you're a part of, you're going to have some problems, even understanding the whole system in general. Because what they're doing is saying, if they're forcing you as an educator to have to take these courses, what they're telling you, if you don't take these courses, you will no longer teach in our system.
That's right.
So we have to really bear down to understand the legislational aspect of this, as well as the law. The key to this thing is, like they said in the program earlier, about the principals and all of them being lesbians and things like that. These people are being protected by law. So you have to start understanding legislation and law. Because if you don't, the first thing they'll pull up on you when you come there with not so much even an Afrocentric concept of a man doing what's right.
That's right.
See, right is not on, it's no longer, someone mentioned it earlier in here. I forgot who said something about it, about being right and wrong. It was somebody on the program. They saying it's no longer right or wrong. See, because things are now legislated. And once they're legislated and in the law, now you're going to have to fight. You'll even have to go to the Supreme Court to even get a hearing for them to even understand your plight. Because they have dug down now so deep all over the thing. Like he said, his job told him, make it. So I'm just saying that I thank you for the program that we just saw, that very enlightening. But I'm saying us as a group, even now everywhere, we have to start understanding the legislation. If we don't understand the legislation, these people will continue to have their agenda going the way it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And what he said is so critical. In a nutshell, they're outlawing our morality.
That's right.
I want everybody, I don't want the people to hear this for a second. This has been going on for like at least 20 years, but it's extremely intense now. It's overt. They're legislating away basic morality. So in other words, it's becoming illegal to be moral. So if you go back, even though we know that they're a homophile culture and pedophilic culture, during the 1800s and early 1900s, it was illegal to rape. It was illegal, unless they rape black people, of course.
Right.
But based on their written law, it was illegal to do these things. Homosexuality around this country was illegal. It was immoral, and hence immorality looked to legislation that was illegal, even though they were doing it. Now what they are doing is changing it. And if you look at it from an African's perspective, African culture is man and woman. European culture is homophilia, meaning molesting children and homosexuals and all this kind of stuff. They are now mandating and legislating European culture as the norm and making African culture, man and woman, basic, just what we think is sanity, it is becoming illegal, which means the best example I can give is slavery. In slavery, it was illegal to look at yourself as a man and a woman who was free and who had the right to go where you wanted to. You were the property of the master. It wasn't a debate or negotiation. And if you tried to resist that, you had no, unless you had papers, and many times they would rip your papers up and you didn't have them to find them, you was in trouble then. So now we're in a situation where it's very similar to what our ancestors went through, except it's broader. There were slave states and free states.
Right.
And they were still racist in free states, but
Right.
I mean, you were still free in the free state.
Right. That's right.
Now what they're saying is, this ain't no free states.
That's right.
There ain't no free nothing. They're saying, if you're black, you will concede to European homophile culture. It will be acceptable to sexualize children. It will be acceptable to push homosexuality. You do not have any rights or you have no say-so on the matter. You must concede. Even to the point where, and it's a little different, because before they had to grab you and keep you on the plantation to make sure you don't get off. It's different now. How do they do it now? They're putting it on the buses, two guys kissing. They're putting it in the subways. They're putting it in the television programs. If you're watching a football game, look at commercials. So you and your son, y'all sitting down eating some popcorn, here comes some gay stuff. In other words, they're going to put it everywhere, so you can't escape it. And that would be one thing if you could say this is sick and perverted and not run the risk of being crossing the lines of being illegal. But what they're doing now, to make it, it's like a black codes. We call it the white codes. These are the white codes. Now the modern day black codes or white codes, whatever you want to call it. So now, if you're black, they're mandating, they're making it by law. If you say a boy should be in a boy's bathroom, literally, they're trying to create that room to literally say it's illegal to do that. Which is why I say, this is not a battle that we can, it doesn't work that way. Certain battles, you don't have the option whether to take it or not. People have been saying for years, this is not something I'll be spending all this time. We don't understand. If we don't have the authority as men to say that we're going to protect our wives from abuse, and our sons are going to be raised as boys, and our daughters are going to be raised as girls and be protected, if we don't have that right, then we're right back in the 1700s in a slave system that might be worse than that one. I'm not saying it's worse than that one because I don't want to disrespect the answers, but I'm saying there's nothing that we have dealt with on this level. They're literally saying it's illegal to, I want people to just understand how insane. Your morality, which is supposed to be something that is passed down from generation to generation about trying to do what is right. They're legislating away the authority for our black people to be moral. Which is why if you see the churches, I don't know if you remember in Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas, the gay mayor, lesbian mayor, got upset with the preacher because the preacher was speaking out against homosexuality and tried to take away their 501c3 status.
That's right.
Their nonprofit status. So in other words, churches don't have to pay taxes because it's a religious institution. The lesbian mayor, black, is saying, well, then you can't have a non-profit status if you're going to speak out against homosexuality. So even though the Bible, no matter what you believe about it, specifically states as a religious premise that God said, it was, matter of fact, God was so harsh, if you want to call anybody homophobic or hate-filled, God said kill him.
That's right.
If you lay with a man, then stone him to death. I mean, this is real, you know, we're not as hard as God, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But now that's what the religious book says. And now the legislation is saying, you cannot have a religious belief if it says something against homosexuality. Even though the very book that they say is the manual is very clear in defending. Say if a woman lay with a dog, kill the woman and the dog. Now I'm not advocating any of this. I'm just saying what the book says. So this is, and this stuff, it doesn't seem relevant, but I
Very relevant.
This is how relevant it is. In Canada, does everybody know that they've now made it legal for you to have sexual contact with animals?
Yeah.
What?
Bestiality.
If you have oral sexual stuff with animals, it's not illegal.
Bestiality.
So,
Damn.
so again, if you're a Christian, and I hate to say this, but look, if you're a Christian in Canada, the Bible says,
There you go.
if a woman lay with a dog, kill the woman and the dog. So the Bible says it's an abomination. In Canada, your morality has been legislated away. It is no longer legal for you to maintain your morality. And where it's going, and like in some places, I think it's Germany. Now let me not misquote the countries. It was a white preacher, I think he was in Germany, who spoke out against homosexuality and was arrested. He's a preacher. He's a preacher who's speaking from the Bible and saying I'm against homosexuality and is arrested for it. So what they're doing is they're literally, and I'm saying the same thing over and over, but I just want this to seep in because as we begin to have this dialogue, this is very serious because we're actually in a situation where we have to ask ourselves the question, because we talk about how free we are and how this and the other. How free are we as black men and women? If we cannot say that my son is a boy.
That's right.
Are y'all hear me?
That's right.
We cannot, okay, let me go back to Canada again. Because what happens in Canada and California and Europe comes to America. So you know what direction they're going. In Canada, they have a group, it's like CPS, Child Protective Custody. In Canada, they just passed a law. And essentially, this is essentially what it says. You can see what direction it's going. Essentially what it says is, if you got a son, and he says, I want to be a girl, I'm a girl. And you say, no, you're going to be a boy, they can take your son away from you. Saying that you're being an abusive parent. Okay, I'm going to say it again. If your daughter says, I'm a boy, and you say, no, you're not, you're a girl, they can declare that you are being an unfit parent, and they, just like Child Protective Custody, they can come and take their children away. Now, just to understand where they're going. They're creating these laws because, and here's the ugliest part. And the sister said it earlier, and it was so brilliant what she said. She was saying, if a boy, and I want everybody to hear this because it's very important, because we're doing this lecture when pedophiles rule, and I didn't even get to talk about what I'm talking about right now. I don't know how to say, I guess the flow of things happen. But that's real serious. She said, think about it. When a little boy wants to wear a dress, he's 2 or 3 years old. She said something that was deep. I never even thought about it this deep. She said, okay, even if he did want to wear a dress, he doesn't know about sex. He doesn't understand the difference between gender, so he just saw something that looked like he wanted to wear it. She said, who puts that and draws the conclusion that that means homosexuality? An adult. And when she said it, it resonated. You're right. The little boy don't know about sex. So even if you don't want to, he just wants to, you can't associate that with something he has no knowledge of unless you want what? You want him to have that knowledge, and why do you want him to have that knowledge?
So he can be.
Because you want him to be, exactly, you're trying to sexualize children. And that's the point that I'm making here is that we are in a society now, when we look at these school systems, not only are they miseducating our children to make sure that they're not properly trained and ready, not only are they drugging them to the school-to-prison pipeline. I think Dr. Umar Johnson does an excellent job of explaining that and breaking that whole thing down now. But now, they're intentionally, with malice of forethought, publicly telling everyone, we are now telling you, you do not have the right or the authority to raise your sons as boys and your daughters as girls. We will decide what they're going to be. And we're going to introduce, under the guise of health education, we're going to teach them how to be gay. We're going to teach them about anal condoms. I hope you understand. In 6th grade now, they teach them about anal condoms.
Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. I mean, but all across the country, if I showed you some of the videos of Gender Bender Day, if I showed you some of the videos, I'm not. But if I showed them to you, you would freak out. Because we're talking about 45-year-old men in high heel pumps coming into the class, dancing in front of the children. What's the little dance when you shake your behind? Twerking.
What?
Okay,
Yeah,
listen, I was just saying, it's not like you'll find one. If you go to YouTube and put in Gender Bender Day in schools,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's not just the children. The teachers are involved in it.
The parents are too.
And the parents are involved in it.
Yep. That's
So,
right.
so what we have is a society that's literally swallowing African insanity. And I'll be honest, and I want other people to jump in and contribute, but I'm saying this because the only way to fight this, the brother made a good point. If we had jumped on this early, they could have never made this happen. See, the earlier you jump in to insanity, people are more sane. And the more sane people are, the more they fight against insanity. At this point, our people are so insane, and our people don't know what to stand on, that we're not in a good condition to resist anything. So what that means is trying to fight this legislatively. If somebody does it, say it again, it's going to be very difficult. Because first of all, you're going to have somebody black with some money. Secondly, you have somebody with the time and all that kind of stuff. At this point, the way we're going to have to fight this is going to have to be mass people. What that means is 300 or 400 people that find, just like can I talk about the Montgomery bus boycott so that people can understand how that happened? There were lots of different people who sat on the bus and didn't get up when the white folks told them to get up. Let me just give you one example. I don't remember the young lady's name, but she was like 14 years old. And she refused to do it. But here's the thing. She was pregnant. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. Just so, the history I'm about to give a little bit is just to clear up some things, but I got this from a brother named Body Shots. I didn't actually do the investigation, but his research is impeccable, so I'm just going to repeat what he said. You can go research it for yourself, but this wasn't my research, this is his research. He was talking about Rosa Parks. He gave me a whole different impression of who she was. He said, and this just give you an idea of the Montgomery bus boycott, and then it'll relate to where we are today. There was a guy named E.D. Nixon. This is a mean dude. He used to carry a 45, cuss you out like a sailor. He was down in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, that region. Serious brother in civil rights and fighting for black people. But he carried the heat, and he wasn't the well-spoken brother. You know, the white folk come up to him, he can pull his heat how he want to do it. You know, so he wasn't the best figure to put on the forefront. Long story short, how did he meet Rosa Parks? She was one of his activists down there, and the sister was walking home one day, and I think it was 4 or 5 white guys. She was carrying groceries home to her house. They raped her on the side of the road, and she begged them while they was raping her, please, just don't kill me, because I got children at home, my husband. So they raped her, but they didn't kill her. So when the husband reported the incident, nobody was going to do anything about it. He contacted E.D. Nixon. E.D. Nixon had to figure out who he could send down there. You know who he sent? Rosa Parks. You know why? He said, I ain't got to worry about nothing happening to you. I know you know what to do to go down there. That's how much of a soldier Rosa Parks was. She's not this playground person. Matter of fact, Rosa Parks, as a little girl, from what Body Shop told us today, she told the story of, she used to sit, and her grandfather was a Garveyite. And he used to sit in his rocking chair and read the Negro World to her. And she said she remembered because the Klan was after them because he was a Garveyite. And the Klan would come around and kill, Garveyites. Brother Malcolm's father got murdered like that. She said she would never go to sleep because her grandfather said, he had a shotgun. He said, I don't know how we going to do afterwards, but I know the first one of them Klansmen come to the door, I'm going to take them out. She said she would never go to sleep because she had to see that first Klansman get shot. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying? What? She said, I'm not going to go to sleep. She said she was dying, she was falling asleep, but she can't fall asleep because when he gets shot, she wants to see it. This is who she was. She was a guardian. So she was just a rebellious sister that was getting in any movement she could do to help black people. Long story short, that's who she was. So when the Montgomery bus boycott came up, the sister was 14 years old, but she was pregnant. What was the problem? Again, we're going back to morality. We're not saying right or wrong and different. We're just saying in the South, there was a certain belief system. You need to be married before you have children. You need to do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. And some of that, not all of it, don't get me wrong. Some of it was just the dressing, the window dressing. But some of it was because we were trying to counter, it wasn't spoken of, but we were trying to counter this culture from slavery of sexual molestation, abuse, women being left out there, fathers home. So there was fathers just like, ain't nobody gonna touch my daughter. And there really were men that were trying to counter this whole culture of sexual abuse and irresponsible children making, single family. They were trying to counter all of that. So they call them shotgun wedding. You touch my daughter, you gonna marry her and you gonna take care of the rest of your life, or you gonna hit the dirt. Mm-hmm. We're not playing these games because we're getting away from slavery. Long story short, the people had a certain morality that wouldn't allow them to get behind a sister who was pregnant at 14 years old. She wasn't the right person because there was too many people that wouldn't jump on board. It wasn't that they hated her, it was just, you're not gonna get the people in Montgomery, Alabama to say we're gonna do it with that particular person. However, Rosa Parks was a freedom fighter. Anybody that had power, she was one of the ones they called. She was there, Johnny on the spot. The brothers, when they was trying to defend people that was in the community doing civil rights work, where'd they clean their guns? Whose house? Rosa Parks. That's where they went, clean their guns, get them ready and everything like that. So she was a warrior. She was a decent sister, well respected. So they said, you know what? This bus thing, we need to deal with it. You gonna do it. Why? Because the people will get behind you. It was all about strategy. It was about, we can get 100% of the people behind because everybody knows your credibility, who you are, what you stand for, your parents, your grandparents, and who you are. I'm saying that to say, they were able to do it. It did not happen by accident. She didn't get on the bus one day and decide not to stand up. She got on the bus with brothers knowing she was going to do it. Them brothers was waiting at the next stop because they knew it was happening, and it wasn't a situation where she was going to get hurt or violated, and she wasn't scared anyway. That's just who she was. She knew what she was doing, but she didn't do it by herself. It was organized, strategized, and once it happened, they publicized it. They called in Martin Luther King, who was a young preacher at that time. He came and did his job, and our people won that. We stood up and won that situation. It was organized. What we're going to end up having to do with this thing, we're going to have to find the right situation. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know it right now. We're going to have to find the right situation with the right circumstances that any black person, as crazy as we are today, that hears it, if they halfway sane, will say, this is wrong. And it's got to be right in the center of what we're talking about. There's this crazy stuff that they're pushing on our children in the school system, the homophilia that's being taught to children, the empire. It's got to be the right situation to zero in on and then galvanize people, and that's what changes the situation. Because going into court before that, if you don't got the people on your side, you might even hurt us because they'll win the case, and then all case law in the court we know is going by precedent. Right. So we don't want to get precedents going in the courtroom fighting this stuff and losing. Right. So we're looking. Okay, so all right, they just went out. So yeah, just like this. So I don't know when or where, but that's the next thing we're gonna have to do. The school system, we got to get our children out, and we got to go in and make them have to make some adjustments. Who wants to come up and speak? Come on up, get on the mic right here.
It's right there.
I just remember when you, the last time we were talking about, homosexuality in the schools, and the sister was here, she was speaking about her son, and that rang a bell when you said the perfect situation, basically, the perfect timing. So, I mean, I didn't know if she had followed up with you on that. I know that's kind of...
No, it's perfect. I'm glad you asked me.
Yeah, I mean, because, right, that'd be kind of like, the perfect situation, the perfect timing, we can bring strength in numbers, all that.
To the brother's point, some people didn't get a chance to make it out last week or see the video. How many people here remember the sister that came and told us the story? I talked about what happened to her son with the gay teacher in the local area. All right, so some people weren't here. Long story short, we were here 2 weeks ago. And we were having a discussion about the transgenderism in the schools and stuff that was going on. And the sister came and said her 7-year-old son said he had a new teacher. The teacher happened to be gay. And 2 things that her son said that bothered her. One, the teacher had them touching their toes and then shaking their behinds. It was a dance teacher. So the teacher had them doing a dance where they was touching their toes and shaking their behinds. He didn't feel that was comfortable. And also that the teacher looked at him in a way that made him feel very uncomfortable. And he meant that sexually. Like, he's 7 years old, but he just came home and said, Mom, he looks at me and it bothers me the way he's looking at me. I'm nervous, I'm scared. So you can imagine, instantly we went through the process of what we need to do. And what happened there, and I'm glad you asked because I can tell again, it was the perfect scenario. And it's one of those things you hear earlier, I was talking about sometimes we have disagreements. Let me tell you the kind of climate it was in here. I think that was the strongest disagreement that we've ever had in the room. But let me tell you how it all worked out and how we got to learn maturity. See, if we can't disagree and remain civil and unified in the disagreement, we can't win. So the sister said that. I never even bothered to ask her as a father in the life because I'm assuming that if it was, that's who she'd have went to. Now, I'm not saying that's not the case. I never even asked beyond that. But long story short, I got up and said, look, who wants to come down to the school so we can go down there? And so Brother Burry, and it was more than just Brother Demetrius jumped. Everybody jumped in, but me and Brother Burry was going back and forth. He was saying there's a protocol for how it's supposed to be done. And I was saying the protocol is to show up and look at the man in the face and be like, he felt a little uncomfortable. We don't want to feel no more uncomfortable no more. You know what I'm saying? So we was fighting back and forth. But let me tell you what happened. It was hot. It was hot. In hearing it, one of the things that Brother Burry said is that the parents are not responsible. So I'm not talking about you, sister, but parents need to take their responsibility and be a parent. And it's a protocol. They should be going, and they should be the first ones on the front line. So long story short, in the middle of the conversation, while we arguing back and forth, the sister says, I just took off tomorrow. They have a dance class. I'm going in there tomorrow. So that's one victory. She wasn't even thinking about that. She was thinking, yeah, okay, she told us, and if we were saying we come, she'd be okay. But he convicted her to make her say, you know what? There is something I can do before I get all these people in this room to try to jump out and go do that. I can take my own first step. And I'm like, I want to go anyway just because I want to get on the battlefield. And I think it's a good fight because we ain't got to argue or physically fight. We can just say, if we don't like this, he can see us. And it makes it, but here's how it gets even better. The next day she goes, the father lives up in New York. She just, on her way to the school, she said, let me just randomly check. He lives in New York. Hey, what's going on? I'm going to the school. He said, I'm right around the corner. That's that energy you was talking. You said, don't be afraid. When the same night we was talking, he was saying, look, we got to stop playing the game. We got to use that energy and just go forward and the right things will happen. The energy you was talking about, the brother was right around it. They went in there and she said he looked at the dude right off the top. The dude knew. The teacher knew right off the top that the father wasn't feminine because I guess he was so overtly feminine or whatever, just so, butterfly, right? So she said he had no issues and that he was on his best behavior. And the bottom line is, everything he said and we said, it really was a merger of both of them. She didn't go to all the parents and do that because we don't know if any of it happened at all. Truthfully, you got to be innocent until proven guilty. However, if any child says somebody looks at them in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable, and it's a black child saying that, then we got to make sure those looks stop, and that person, whether they're innocent or guilty, because they might have been something that maybe they didn't do. It doesn't matter. They're going to know we watching, and we don't want to keep hearing about no uncomfortable looks. Is everybody with me? So to your point, that situation was resolved to her satisfaction because she felt comfortable after going there that she wasn't going to have no more problems like that because the father was there and he got to see that father and knew that this is a man in this boy's life. And it probably would not be the one, since the parents are in here looking at me. Think about it. If he was looking at that child, think about it. If that was a sexual look at that little 7-year-old, he see the mother and the father in there out of nowhere just showing up at the school, like the brother said. He knows exactly what that is. Because he know what he done. Right? So he know, uh-oh, somebody said something, he on his best behavior right now, and he better stay on his best behavior. So, to your point, that was nice, and it was a good beginning because now we got some rules in place. The first thing we're going to do whenever it happens, we're going to follow a certain protocol because we know that now. But we also know just showing up without no words being spoken, put some of these fools in check. Yes, sir. Come on up here. Could you pass that to my brother? Thank you, son.
Yeah, because without the father, the child is a soft target. So you see the father, he's like, well, I'll move on to the next kid. I mean, that's what kind of time he on. But if it's a father, if a father's there, that checks all that. I was just gonna say, it's a lot to be said, but I'm gonna just say, as you was talking again, I was like, dang, when you, I think it was something when you was saying how, you was mentioning something about the 60s or whatever, you know, back in the days up to now. So it just made me think about how, like, it seems like what crack did to black people, it's like they're using homosexuality.
That's right.
The same thing.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Could homosexuality really jump off like it is now during the crack epidemic? As much as, you know, even though crack was messed up and everything, it was a lot of it was battling going on. It was shooting and killing. So
that's right.
You couldn't have no gay dudes even
Openly.
Now, I mean, it was gay dudes, but right, it was not openly, and the gay dudes that I knew, they was older. You know what I'm saying? They was, you know,
He
and
called Faggy somebody. His name was Faggy or whatever his name was.
I said, you know what's so funny? I know it. I somebody I know right now. You should call him that. And he used to be like, stop calling me that. He used to do that all the time. But he was an older guy though. He was 17.
Faggy Joe.
Yep, that's exactly how it was. He hit it on the head with that. No doubt. So that was what was going on. You know, it wasn't no room for that. You know what I'm saying? But now crack is gone, even though, you know, we know the effects that it had or whatever. But crack is gone. So it's like homosexuality, because it's, look, who did crack affect the most?
The black man.
I mean, the black community.
The black community, yeah.
And who homosexuality affect the most? The black community.
Right
Now I'm saying, was white folks smoking crack? Hell yeah. They was the biggest customers. They went
down for it.
exactly though. And same way with homosexuality. Again, it's whites, we already know they basically invented the thing.
Right.
But the effect of it is us. It'll destroy, it's basically, it's putting each other, it's putting us at odds. We don't know, I got family members that's gay. So it's like, damn, I got family members, you know, I even got dudes that I know that's gay. If I see them, I ain't gonna kick them in the goddamn dirt. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, we all over the place with really addressing it the correct way. You understand what I'm saying? So
And let me do this. I'm sorry. His points be so poignant. He the first person I ever met that I absolutely got to get the mic for a second. We start talking. His points be so perfect. I got it. He really hit the nail on the head, even to the point where, remember, the crack was what they used and start ravaging the community where it turned people against each other because there was somebody that was benefiting from the dude that was selling crack because he was paying them. And so we felt bad, don't say nothing about my cousin because he was selling crack, even though he was doing damage to the community. Then there's other people that was against that.
That's right.
So families start splitting up with the crack because of that. Same thing with the homophilia. Now, you got this woman or this dude that's involved in it. The real men is like, don't bring that stuff around my friend. But then everybody in your family wants to push you aside now. And don't even want you to say nothing about it. It's almost like the non-snitching with the crack. Don't snitch, don't say nothing, that's your family. Now it's this uncle that's molesting people. Don't say nothing about it and everything like that. It's literally destroying families. But this is more dangerous than crack. And there's a reason that it's more dangerous than crack. It destroys the family, but there's also another, I call it the zombie effect. Crack was horrible, and it had a spiraling effect. So the mother's on crack, she's not watching the children, so they get molested and all that kind of stuff. But just because your mother was on crack didn't mean you was gonna be on crack. Matter of fact, it's a rack of dudes and women who didn't never touch cracks or cigarettes or nothing because they said, I see my mother, I see my father, I ain't messing with it. The homophilia is different.
terrorizing. The best movie I can talk about, just think about the vampire movies. It really nails it on the head. Really, if you in a family and the vampire comes, he knocks on your door. Remember how the movies work? If you don't let him in, he can't have no impact. If you don't let the vampire in, he can't have no impact. Once he gets in, you trust him and let him in, just like the pedophile and the homophile. That person, the vampire bites somebody, now they become a zombie. So they look like a regular person, but the inside of them is all messed up and they going around, but you can't tell because it look like Uncle such and something ain't right with him. It's just like the Bama switching. It's still my uncle, but what does that zombie do to you if he bites you? Right, and you become what?
You become zombie.
Right, the zombie effect. So crack didn't have that same effect. Now what's happening? This dude is a pedophile, and every child in the family, when he get a chance to see him on the side, he molests them. And now each one of those children that's been touched has the potential to become a pedophile or homosexual or a violent criminal because they messed up about what was done to them. All of this, and it's a zombie effect because if he molests, I'm gonna come to you. Let's say, because I looked at one study, and basically, just so you can get an idea of how pedophiles operate. How many children do you think that the average pedophile molests before the first time they get caught? And go to, get caught and even get locked, even if they don't get locked up, but the first time they get caught and get taken to trial or whatever?
Probably 50.
60.
God.
I'm gonna say it again. Before they get the first time going to trial, the average pedophile has molested 60 children.
60.
So, like if you see the vampire movie, the zombie going around, everybody turning into zombies. But if you don't know to recognize the zombie, what it is, they look like your family member. That's what this is doing. So it's more dangerous than crack because it's getting inside and you got people in your family now that's affected, that's going around terrorizing, making more zombies and more affected people. I'm going to my brother and then my brother back there, then my sister. So brother, sister.
Yeah, I was gonna say too to that with the when you know a lot of cats when it was on drugs, that they was willing to do sexual favors for drugs too. You know what I'm saying? So on the low, a lot of that went on.
Yes, sir.
Also, women letting men have their children for drugs. A lot of that went on. You understand what I'm saying? And that really walked us into homosexuality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And another thing too, Bird talked about it. I know I said we on the same page part the policy, the government, how homosexuals have, because you gotta think it's more straight people than homosexuals. So how are they able to gain that kind of power and control? Because they in key positions. You know what I'm saying? And it was one more okay, and that's another thing with the whole issue is that with crack, it was illegal. Homosexuality is not illegal. They doing everything to make it legal. You know what I'm saying? It's not illegal to be gay. It's illegal to sell drugs. It's illegal to do all the things.
It's almost illegal to be anti-gay.
It's definitely more illegal to be anti-gay than anything else. Right. Absolutely. So that's another thing with crack that kind of, it deters certain people away. You had to hide and do it. It was the underworld. You know what I'm saying? But this thing,
it was illegal.
This thing is on Front Street.
But exactly, this thing is on U Street.
It's on like man. Come on up here, my brother. I'm gonna get this mic here and drop them beams on us. Hey, I'm sorry, let's just get his brother right. He's just knocking us down today.
I just wanted to say that, like, on the real, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. You can't really compare the crack epidemic to pedophilia in our communities. A person has to choose if you're on crack. No child ever chooses to be, victimized.
That's right.
So you can't compare them two. We can say, yeah, the effects go together. Yeah. Would our community be as ravaged without crack? I mean, every way. They gave us crack and they took away jobs. So it's like, but You can't compare those two. You can't. You gotta watch it. Like, you wanna say wrong is wrong, true. But if you go out here and you try to say, well, gay is just like the crack epidemic, then you telling these kids that they chose that. These crackheads chose that. I know a lot of them. And even if you're sad and you're like, well, I feel like that's all I can do. That's not what's going on with these kids. These kids feel like all I can do is be quiet because nobody gonna really listen because they don't listen to children. So
let me say something to that. Okay, so again, I disagree with what you're saying, but here's the thing. Just like you said with the jobs, crack was effective because they took the jobs. So they walked us into that too. So they took jobs away and said, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna hustle.
That's right.
Now, all that came with hustling and everything, the whole lot came under that umbrella, which allowed homosexuality now to be introduced to black folks.
Yeah.
but look at it this way. The reason I'm telling you you can't really relate to it, you're telling me that a child chooses to be sexually violated. I mean, here, please.
Let me get this. Then she's next, then you. Go ahead. Oh, you good? Okay.
Yeah, you know.
No, you next after. No. Okay. In terms of saying the connection, I agree with what you're saying. But what he's saying is really the center of what separates the weight of the two. With the crack epidemic, even though they did put things in place to do it, ultimately, you made a decision and you knew what you were doing it for. I want to be paid. I want to be flossing. So I'm going to sell crack, even though I know the damage it's doing, because I want to floss. Even if I want to pay my mom with the bill. So even though you might have had, they put us in a bad position. We're not disputing that. But to his point, this is a different level. Because that vampire, that zombie that's walking around in the family, messing with children, there's nothing those children can do. Those little children make no decision in that situation whatsoever. It's a whole nother ballgame. It's like, I don't even know the difference. I can say it like this. It's a whole entirely different level. Every person that did crack, even though we know that our enemy set this up for us, ultimately, you made a decision. Even if you were 14 or 15, maybe you didn't have a better decision. So we're not criticizing the person that made the decision per se, but you made a decision.
Right.
Every child that's molested has no decision in it.
I'm saying.
This is no say you can't opt out, because to his point, let's look at it the reverse way. How many people grew up in a community, saw people selling crack and dope, and chose not to do it? And didn't have no money and was poor and broke. I was broke. I was poor, but I wasn't going to sell crack. How many children actually had the option to say, no, I'm not going to be molested, and chose not to be molested? It don't work that way. So what has happened is, I don't think we should separate the two, but what we should say is, we had one level of an assault with crack. They came with a more vicious assault this time.
Right.
Because you can't get out of it. Go ahead, yes sir, and then my sister.
They both attacks with the long systemic actions from them.
Yeah.
The long effects of it
Right.
are completely different.
Yeah.
Like, you choose to sell crack for whatever reason. You choose to buy crack for whatever reason. You can't say a child chooses to be molested.
I never made it. I never.
At this point, y'all not disputing.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Y'all not disputing.
I agree with you that they go together.
And here's the thing. It's another piece of it too. Even the people who bought the crack, again, I'm not saying that there wasn't a predatory thing, but you chose to smoke the crack too.
True.
So not only did the person choose to sell crack, but the person chooses to smoke crack too. In this case, the person who molested the child did not give them an option. And the child didn't have an option. And in the long run, there's a whole bunch of ex-crack addicts that are good people in the black community.
Yeah.
How many pedophiles are good people in the black community? Let me go even deeper. How many homophiles? So just let's say homosexuals, even if they ain't pedophiles, How much damage are homosexuals doing in the black community?
Plenty.
Even if you want to give them some room, one thing you got to acknowledge is that homosexual, and I don't think nobody in this room would disagree, lesbian or homosexual, every day is looking for a new target to pull into that behavior.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from them directly. Male homosexuals would rather bring a dude who's never been gay into it as a conquest over and above a dude who's already gay. And the women do the same thing and prey on women who are not involved in that. Even to the point of exploiting the difference that a man and a woman have in a relationship. To the point of saying that dude ain't no good, come with me to try to, like a magnet, draw women into this madness. So actually the homophiles, as bad as crack dealers and crack was, it was devastating. The homophiles are probably to the second power or third power in terms of how bad they are. But they go together, because we probably could have never had this situation if we didn't have crack, the color purple, and hip hop. I don't think we could have ever had homosexuality running rampant in the black community like we have it today.
And you can be an ex-crackhead, but you can't be ex-gay. You know what I mean?
There be somebody that no longer participates in that. I mean, because there are women who've been involved in it. I don't know how many dudes you get out of it.
That's what I think. Once you cross the line, you're done. That's what I think too. You could be a crackhead and never smoke crack again. If you suck a dick, you suck a dick forever.
Ain't no way around that. You let that know people.
You can't reverse that.
And I enjoy this dialogue, and I'm happy to be here tonight. So I wanted to stand up and kind of put it out there to say, let's try and educate our young people. You know, if you have a 2-year-old or 4-year-old at home, let them know that if they like the color pink or if they think dresses are cute, do not equate that with being gay. I believe adults, that's why I brought it up to Brother Genie earlier, I believe adults put that in a child's head. They don't know anything about gender or sexuality when they like what they like. They are being, I guess, brainwashed by the media. They see it on TV, they see a dress, or they see whatever they see, and they want it just because it looks attractive. Okay, but I think as adults, and I remember being a child, if a boy had a certain thing on or wanted to wear something, the father might say, you know, you ain't no sissy, take that off. Yeah. It didn't have nothing to do with sexuality, but now the adult planted that idea that whatever they were doing was equated with sexuality. So I'm just saying, any child under 12 or even under the age of 10, it's a learned behavior, and there's some adult or the TV that is teaching them to equate whatever they're doing with the sexual part of it. That's my opinion.
Somebody come on up.
So notice that and encourage your children to play if they want to play. No. But when you see that sexual part come into it, somebody's been teaching them that, and you need to address that for what it is. Does that make sense?
We're going to definitely address it. Thank you.
Yeah. I just need to comment on what the sister is saying a little bit. Now, I understand what you're saying, but there's a problem with that.
Speaking of Mike,
there's a problem with it. As a man, Genie, about 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you were here, he showed where a black woman had a little kid, there was a little boy, and he liked dresses. My biggest problem was the father, to be honest with you. If I got a child, I don't care if he's 3, I don't care if he's 1, if he's a boy, he's going to be in boy clothing.
Yes.
That's right.
If he's a female, she's going to be in female clothing. This BS, I'm not disrespecting you or anybody else. This BS about playing with gender is dangerous.
It is.
It's very dangerous. You are what God made you.
That's right.
If you're going to tell me that you're a scripture bearer, but then it ain't bad for Johnny to put on a little dress. But you're going to tell me I'm a firm believer in the Creator. I'm not saying useless, I'm just using the whole realm. We're playing a dangerous game here. This game is too dangerous to be playing with about debating about what your sexuality is. Clothing dictates everything. That's why Will Smith's son wears dresses.
That's right.
Because they're giving an image of what is acceptable.
That's right.
We have to be careful of we allowing the airways to give us the image, just like these airways have shaped us about who we are as a people.